NBA Draft Eve. And we've got some action. Holy shit, do we have a trade?
Yeah.
A pretty significant one that transpired just moments ago where Marcus Smart is on the move going to the Memphis Grizzlies in a 3-team deal that sends Porzingis to Washington, and then Tyus Jones, Danilo Gallinari, Mike Muscala, and a pick goes to the Washington Wizards. There's some other stuff to break down in the deal, but how we even got here is kind of crazy. Earlier in the day, it's being reported that there's a 3-team deal between the Clippers, the Wizards, and the Celtics that would have sent Porzingis to Boston.
Yeah.
Marcus Morris would go from the Clippers to the Washington Wizards, and the Clippers would land Malcolm Brogdon.
Yes.
That deal falls apart. People are talking about, like, who's won the trade, and then the deal falls apart. A little bit later, we get this deal. So, taking a step back, how do I digest it all? The first news, the Celtics getting Porzingis is awesome, but I got to be honest, my first reaction was, wow, they really did it. They traded Marcus Smart, and no matter what you think about the guy, you just think of him, you think of the Boston Celtics.
You know why I think we felt that way, like that holy shit moment with Marcus Smart's name in there, is because we kind of got to process a little bit of Porzingis going to the Celtics earlier today. Even though it didn't fall through, it was like we were talking about it all day. People were talking about it all day. With Marcus Smart, you just think about this is the type of dude that dyes the tip of his hair green. I think the organization has talked about like what Marcus Smart means to them.
Dude, he's a heart and soul of that team. He was drafted by them. He's been through the tough times. He's been through the good times. He played 9 seasons there and won a Defensive Player of the Year award. It's not a surprise that they traded him, I guess. I get it's just, wow, it really happened.
Yeah.
Because in some respect, you'd heard him in trade rumors before, but it seemed like, oh, no, this guy might be a Celtic lifer. But with the noise that Boston was looking to mix up the guard situation, he heads to the Memphis Grizzlies in this deal. And let's just talk about that fit, number one.
Okay.
So they trade Tyus Jones, who showed in a backup role. He's the best backup point guard in the NBA, I would say.
Yeah.
And when he filled in for Ja, he was awesome. And with the news of Ja missing the first 25 games, who the hell is going to fill that void? Well, Marcus Smart can come in and fill that void at the point guard spot. I love it just from what he brings to that team. They're moving on from Dylan Brooks. You need a guy that plays physical, plays with an edge, but it's a team guy. He's going to bring it defensively, and he can handle a little bit too.
And so many people want to act like, wow, what an upgrade from Dylan Brooks. And it's like, no, I don't even want to compare the two. I think that in some ways people want to because they go, yeah, you got to have that type of mentality, that willingness to just be scrappy and get out there. Marcus Smart over the years, though, has evolved his game into so much more, even if his shooting isn't consistent one year as it is in another year. But you can depend on him for his effort, for his mentality, for the leadership he's going to bring. And that's the other point that people were talking about is like, wow, think about having this guy in that locker room after everything that's gone down with Ja Morant.
Yeah, someone that's been on winning teams, that's made some deeper runs, and has dealt with his own stuff throughout the years, going through ups and downs and facing some adversity and coming out the other side. So I like that fit for it. And then you look at it from Boston's standpoint, getting Porzingis. Porzingis had a really, really good year in Washington last year. A bounce back year where he played 65 games.
Wow.
And that's a big deal, especially for his injury stuff that he's dealt with throughout his career. He is going to opt into the final year of his deal with Boston that will pay him $36 million, and then he becomes a free agent. But I think for Boston to have a guy up front who can space the floor that showed last year, there's a little of that Porzingis still left in the tank. You're trying to win a championship. I think that's a great pickup for them, especially when you consider Rob Williams has been banged up and Al Horford is, I think, just turned 57 years old? 57 years old.
Also losing a defender like Marcus Smart. Now, I know, shocking I am saying this because KP has been known throughout his years to not hold his own on the defensive end, especially when it's in individual defense. But this last
He's been a rim protector in the past for sure.
But this last season, he averaged over a block and a half in 20 points per game, averaging 23 points per game. I mean, you saw him doing it so much more on both ends of the floor, and maybe that's because he's healthy. Maybe he's in his prime at 27 years old. But he's come a long way, and we talked about the fit with Dallas and how, like, not playing with Luka, there's just been so many things that showed he still has it in this league at a high level. He showed it last year, and then for Boston to add that to their roster, I mean, good for them. They're really trying to get to the next level.
Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they pivot, too, from the point guard spot because, Marcus Smart had kind of been running the show. Brogdon obviously is capable of being a lead guard, but like I don't trust his health at all.
No.
So they're gonna have to look somewhere. I don't know. Is it Chris Paul? Is there another guard out there that they could get their hands on and be in a situation they feel comfortable with him being the lead guy going forward? But yeah, Porzingis is healthy. It's awesome. I'm still, uneasy when I think of Porzingis overall, just because the health stuff from the past.
Fair.
But the fact that he was able to bounce back and play as many games as he did, that's going to be huge. And now he's going to be playing with some really special talent out there with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
And I would love to see what that does for his game. How is that going to elevate him? And how is that mix-up going to help the Boston Celtics?
Yeah.
Again, big loss with Marcus Smart, but you're adding something different. And maybe toward the end of the season, we're talking about a team that lost its soul. And they were missing that type of locker room guy. But at the same time, I mean, you have so much talent on that squad, and you saw what they went through before last season even started, and then how they ended up finishing the season. Like, I don't know. I think
he's going to be missed in Boston.
Oh,
he's going to be missed.
absolutely
His
is.
just what he brings, those intangibles. I think those things do matter.
But this roster, when you look at it on paper, like, it's got to excite you a little bit in the NBA.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely, especially if Porzingis stays healthy. So overall, Boston gets Porzingis, the 25th pick in the draft, and a future Golden State first. Marcus Smart goes to Memphis. Washington in this gets Tyus Jones, Gallinari, Muscala, and the number 35 pick. We already know what their path is right now. They're thinking about one thing, and that's the future. We're going to tear it down. The Tyus Jones thing, the rumor about him and his future with Memphis popped up the other day. I think Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report put it out, and it's surprising. Like, they can't move on from him, especially with Ja being gone. He's really good. He's headed into the final year of his deal. But in that piece, Fisher indicated that they were trying to find him a spot where he can have a full-time opportunity. And I know it's not a great team to be on, especially with where they're going, but he's going to have the full-time gig, I imagine, this year in Washington in a contract year.
And we haven't even thought about this. What if for some reason Chris Paul isn't on that squad, right? Like on Washington. But if for some reason
That's what I'm picturing, that he's not on the squad.
I know. But if for some reason he is, because as of right now, he technically is. I mean, what a great guy to learn from, right? To have around you as a young point guard in this league. But
he's not
most likely not going to happen.
He's not playing in Washington. But then again, I didn't think he was playing in OKC. But yeah, so I just think that's a good opportunity for Tyus Jones. Like, go out there, ball out, play a ton of minutes, and then next offseason, you're getting paid, and maybe you're showing you could be a full-time starter, and teams go, yeah, he can start on my team.
Yeah.
I like Tyus Jones a lot. I think he's done a good job. And
me too.
So, I mean, overall, it's weird. I don't hate the deal for any team. I see what they're thinking. I think if you're looking at the big picture, you go, wow. I mean, Boston comes away with Porzingis, and they get 2 first-round picks out of it. On the surface, you go, that's a hell of a deal, because you get into this year's draft, you get a contract that's going to be reasonable, take a shot at a young guy, and then a future pick. I think that's really nice to have in your back pocket if you're Boston.
And obviously it shows that they weren't willing to give Marcus Smart up just for anything, right? It had to be the right situation. And I truly believe that adjustment for both those teams, the Celtics and the Grizzlies especially, it just absolutely makes sense. And then obviously, like we said, for Tyus Jones to have a bigger opportunity.
And Marcus Smart's deal, by the way, is not cheap. Next year, 18.5. The year after that, 19.9, and then 21.3. God, that feels like a lot of money.
They got him locked in, though.
He's not a good shooter, though. Is he going to age well? Is he going to
Inconsistent.
be the same? Yeah,
You
I mean,
can
just
ask
for
that
this
about.
season, if you look at it in a vacuum, I kind of like it, but man, that contract length, give up a couple of picks.
All of a sudden, you're
I'm
not
just-
about it.
It's instant reaction. I understand the thinking, but when you
Yeah.
go, God, man, I mean, I feel like Boston kind of made out on this now. The more I
They
talk it through.
absolutely
Yeah.
did, but that was the thing. That's
Yeah.
why at first when I thought it was when we first searched Marcus Smart, Tyus Jones, I'm like, no, like that just doesn't
Yeah.
make full sense. And then you hear what was added to it is
Sure.
for Boston, it was, oh, this team had to give up a lot to get Marcus Smart, and we knew that was going to happen when and if Marcus Smart was ever dealt with.
And I go worst case scenario with Boston. It doesn't work out with Porzingis. Cool. He's an expiring deal.
Yeah.
I mean, what'd you leverage at that point? You know, you got to move on. So, hey, there's some tough decisions to be made. Oh, I love this time of year. Oh, and we also want to talk about one other thing that happened. A little bit surprising in NBA circles. Khris Middelton opted out of the final year of his deal with Milwaukee. And the final year of that deal would have paid him $40 million. That's a lot of money, especially for someone who was banged up this year.
Yep.
The knee had been an issue. He's had some problems. Is he going to be the same caliber player going forward? You don't opt out of a deal that would pay you $40 million after you had a down year unless you know that there is a deal somewhere else for you. And
Yep.
maybe that's just with Milwaukee and they're just going to sign him up and bet that he's going to be all right going forward. But I was a little surprised by that.
And kind of going to your point, Bobby Marks even tweeted out that same thing. Something to keep in mind is that you don't decline a $40 million option just to test the market. There's always a financial insurance policy waiting. Middleton has bird rights, and Milwaukee can't exceed the cap to sign him.
I get all that. I understand that they could pay him a lot.
Yeah,
Morgan, he played 33 games last
I
year.
know.
He averaged 15 points, 43% shooting, 31% from three. He just wasn't kind of that same guy, and he's going to be 32. Maybe they're betting that he's going to be healthy next year and have a bounce back. Maybe they believe he can get back to being that 20-point-a-game
Sure.
scorer, and it's not a big deal.
And maybe it's just the fact that he wants to decline the option because he wants to sign that longer contract because of his age, because of his health. You know,
and have
that's
it,
the
but
direction.
$40 million is just such a big chunk to me.
And it is, but maybe he's banking on less but more years, and that being the way that he needs to go because of his health and because of his body. Like maybe
Yeah. He's got to know something.
He knows
gotta know
something we don't know.
He's not just going to go, you know what? That $40 million I can make, I don't know if I can make more elsewhere. Let's just try. If not, then you are firing your agent if it gets messed up.
If he goes,
That's the reality.
If he goes somewhere else, would you be surprised at this moment?
No, I mean, and that would mean someone's paying him big time money, and he knows it.
I think he's staying in Milwaukee. We'll see. I don't know why I never make predictions like this, but I don't know. There's something about this that feels very much like it has to do with his age and his health.
Well, you need to know that we're going to be live for the NBA draft on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@Deuce and Mo. We're going to be live throughout the night. So come hang out with us there. Make sure, by the way, you hit the thumbs up on our videos and subscribe. We appreciate you guys so much.